this is Chala Dincoy, CEO and founder of The Repositioning Expert. We're here with another edition of the podcast, Naked Marketing, where we get honest about our marketing mistakes. My next guest is Steve Edwards from Premier Virtual. Welcome, Steve.
Hello, thank you for having me.
I can tell you're a family man by the pictures in the background. I think that's fabulous.
My wife and my kids are my pride and joy.
I love it. I love it. So tell us what you do and who you help.
So I am the CEO of Premier Virtual. We are a virtual platform that was really designed to help people get back to work and help organizations help. We work with over 200 workforce development boards here in the US, getting people back to work. We just had a record-setting job fair with 17,000 candidates and 1,700 companies on our platform. So from a small mom and pop all the way up to a large organization, we help them get back to work.
What do you think about the Great Resignation?
I think there's a lot of people that are switching jobs because they don't look at people being happy, right? And I can kind of, as I'm dropping my mom off at the airport today, she's been at the same job for 36 years. And I was like, how long have you been at the job? And you were talking about it. And she's like, she's gone through the original owner of the company who sold it to his son, who now sold it to his son. And there's always changes that comes in. And we're talking about other people just aren't happy with their job. So everybody's quitting, right? And it's real easy to think that grass is better on the other side. And when her company got bought out, they offered her a lot more money to go with the new company. And she said, no, I'm going to stay with the family and to keep less money because she was happy at it. But I think people now, they look for dollars and cents and, what is out there that's helping that people, right? For example, I put a gym, we built a new office and I ripped out the conference room and I put a beautiful gym in so that if my people want to come in, they're coming in. And we have one of our guys that came in and said, hey, I got a better offer somewhere else, but I love that you have a gym in your office. And it's people are quitting jobs based on culture, based on what the office is like. Can they work remote? Can they bring dogs and pets to the office? So people are quitting now for not just money, but they're quitting for culture as well.
It's unbelievable. So tell me, did you have this virtual business before the pandemic?
Yes. Yeah. We were developing the software. We went live right before COVID in January, but we started developing our virtual software in 2019 and we're testing it with live clients at the end of 2019. And then we switched our business model to only license our software instead of putting on job fairs, because that's what we had done for 9 years, putting on in-person job fairs, and just saw in-person wasn't working anymore. And the ROI wasn't there. So we said, hey, virtual is the way to go, and developing it and coming in. And then when we went live in January, and then all of a sudden COVID hit in March, and, it really kind of threw us into the spotlight because we were there and we knew the industry. So we did between April and December, 2,500 virtual events on our platform.
Well, I'll bet. I was going to say, like, if the universe could have sent a pandemic at a better time for your business, it could probably not have been a better time, could it?
No, absolutely. COVID was really a catalyst. I started in 2018 switching to virtual. And I said December of 2018, I had already tested some virtual platforms out there because all I was going to do is, I was putting on in-person job fairs for 9 years. And instead of me doing a job fair tonight in Fort Lauderdale, the next night in Miami, the next night in Tampa, and then traveling, and you see, right? I had just one son at the time, and he was young and I was gone, and I just didn't want to do that anymore. And I'm like, I can do a virtual job fair in an entire state at one time, or a national hiring event. So I just said that this is what it is. And in December of 2018, I was at a LinkedIn local event, and they were all recruiters that were there. And I said, I'm going 100% virtual in 2019. We're developing our own software. Here's what it is. And everybody's like, it's not going to work. Virtual isn't going to work. And I'm like, it's the future, right? People would rather apply online than wait in line. And I said, right, your phone is there, people. That's what people want. And COVID hit, and it just showed people the efficiency of virtual, right? From a trade show to a job fair to a resource event. I mean, we've done things from our events from murder mysteries on the virtual world to record-setting job fairs with 1,700 companies. Actually, it was 1,697 companies in one job fair. You can't do that in person. So it showed the efficiency of what can be done from a small organization all the way up to large workforce development in a state level.
It's amazing. So let me ask your perspective on this. Before the pandemic, I lost all my business during the pandemic because I used to speak. I'm in Canada. I used to speak in the US. Just without picking up a phone, I got all these gigs to speak at 14 conferences in 12 months. And I would speak for 60 minutes and close six figures in the next 60 minutes in the audience.
Yeah.
And then I lost that funnel and I had to build everything online. And luckily I've been speaking, virtually at virtual conferences now, but it's been my experience that they are not yet converting as well, because what I find is that my target, who are business owners, CEOs of multi-million-dollar companies, may be checked in as their name on the screen, but they're doing other things in the background. And so they're not engaged. They no longer ask to have a conversation afterwards. So, and I'm not saying nobody does, but the ratio has drastically fallen off. Yeah. So what do you think about that?
So you're 100% right. And I talk about this a lot, is at an in-person conference, I'm listening to you. You're engaging. I love what you say. I can walk up right after you. Yeah. But at a virtual conference, what happens so many times is, okay, I have my computer with my two screens. Now I start looking at my other screen. Am I really? Oh, I'm here, but I'm emailing. I'm doing everything. I'm not engaged. So those people that aren't engaged, they're never going to go to that next step. Now, part of this, and I talk about trade shows as a whole, is there's the good and the bad. I actually had a potential client 2 weeks ago call me about his event. And a lot of times when somebody calls me about their events, I try to say, hey, I'll trade you, right? I'll let you use my virtual platform as a sponsor for it. And I said, I don't even want you to use my platform for your event because it's not the right fit. Your audience is not going to be the right fit. And he's like, well, why do you say that? I go, these are high-level officers in the military. They want that face-to-face interaction. They want to shake hands. They want to go out after work. And there's a lot of business that's done when that trade show is done at 5 o'clock. Yeah. So they have to know their audience, and they have to do something in these trade shows, right? There's a lot of content that's there, but what's going to keep people engaged in that? Right? Where if I go to a trade show, right? I was just in one in Vegas, you go in and you sit in and you listen to the speaker. There's really nothing else going on. You have to go there. But on the virtual side, there's so many other things. And what a lot of the organizers do in these trade shows is they'll put 4 or 5 different things at one time, and they're having so much content. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, okay, I'm bored within 2 minutes. If I'm at a trade show, I'm not going to get up and walk out. But here I'm going to just pay attention to that. Exactly. And the second aspect of it, and, I always like saying this, but, some people always look at me as, I built a virtual platform, not with what Steve Edwards thought was great, but I sat down with my clients and people that attended job fairs, and I built the first version of our software. Then in November of last year of 2020, we started working on the second version of our software because we did, over 2,000 events at this point in time. We had, almost 200,000 candidates had been on there, 20,000 organizations. And we sat there and we said, okay, we are now going to switch and we're going to build the second version of our platform because now we had more feedback. We did focus groups and we did everything. So I built it from the end user space because not everybody is tech savvy and everybody's getting thrown into the virtual world. It's like, hey, I got 20 emails today is, hey, there's a virtual conference that's going to be there. And if it's a conference that I think is exciting, the first thing I do is I say, which platform are you using? Not that I won't use a virtual platform, but I know if there's certain platforms that they use, I tell them no. because I know that that platform is not user-friendly. It's too complex. They're doing too much things on there. And I try to find a little bit more information about how the event is going to run to see if it's going to benefit my organization. Because it's the, when I look at these trade shows and, this week I leave for another trade show and it'll be the 5th one that I've gone to in 4 weeks.
Wow.
And I looked at everyone and says, okay, who's going to be there? And if there's a virtual component, who are they using and how is it going to be? And in the beginning, I was using a lot of them to kind of see what was, I don't want to say what was out there, but I was using, hey, listen, I love virtual. I think virtual is the future. I'm going to use your platforms. And when you start getting on there and I'm like, man, I'm the CEO of a virtual company and I'm watching your training videos on your virtual platform to run this thing, and myself and my entire team don't understand it, that's going to be a problem for that end user who's not in the industry.
Yeah.
Like, how can you connect and interact and do all these things? So, when I tell everybody, when you're looking at a trade show and you're looking at what platform they're doing, see what they're going to do with that virtual platform. Yeah. Is it just going to be something where, hey, people can come in and can they chat? Can they video? Because that's something where, especially with what you're doing is, that interaction is, are they going to give you the database so you can email? Can you chat? Can you get on a one-on-one video with a potential CEO that's there to be able to get that revenue, generate that revenue as well?
Absolutely. So that brings me to the big naked marketing question of what was your biggest marketing mistake? And we were talking earlier that it was trade shows. So tell us a little bit about what you mean by that.
So, when I look at trade shows, I get asked to be at a lot of trade shows. We're here from, the technology to the recruiting to the HR ones, is I really look at who the audience that's going to attend. And then I want to see how many people do you think are going to be there and how many people were there pre-COVID. So first look at those things, because as any CEO or, and my CFO looks at it, is we look and say, okay, how much money did we spend previously on trade shows? How much money does it cost me to send, not just to the trade show, but to send people out there, food, hotel, lodging, all of that information? What does it cost? And what are we going to get out of that? Then you say, okay, is it the right audience, right? Like SHRM is amazing what they do. And they had their talent trade show, which was 2 weeks ago. And then next week is their big HR one. Well, I looked at it and I said, okay, there's a lot more people that are going to be at the SHRM event, their general one, than their talent, but more decision maker and the people that I need to speak with at the smaller event. So instead of going to the larger event, I went to the smaller event and I threw a little bit more money into that one. Then I look at, okay, do they have a virtual component to it? Okay, and then what is that virtual component to it? Because I know the ones that are going to be out there, I know, is it user friendly or is it too complex? So that I can say, this makes sense to pay for that virtual component of it, or is that just going to be wasting money? And then I also we look at where we're going to place our booth, and the small things that when you look at is the trade shows is, where do they have the lunch set up? A lot of people don't think about that, right? But when you're looking at trade shows is, where do they have the lunch set up? Sometimes, right? Like a recent one I was at, I was like, okay, I'm going to set up right by the host booth, right there. This is the spot. But guess what? At the event, they had the lunch served all the way on the other side. Because normally I look at the host booth because everybody has to go to that host booth to check in. Now that was great for their happy hour that night, which was perfect. But they had their lunch on the other side. And what they did is people could come in and they could cut and not have to go through the exhibitor hall at all. So they could cut around to go to the lunch. Where a lot of them, if the lunch is in the back, they have to come through the exhibitor hall, right? A good trade show host is going to put their lunch in the back and they drive their people through the exhibitors. Because some people go to these trade shows to get credits. They're not going to see the exhibitors. They want to say, where the exhibitor is this way, I'll walk 30 minutes around to go out of the way so that I don't have to see these. So when you're looking at the trade shows, we really look down to everything. And of what then I look at afterwards is, where's my return on investment? What am I getting out of that? And to be able to see, okay, this is one that we're going to go to. Again, this is one that we're not, right? I had one that came in and they just sent me an email the other day. They said, hey, our huge one's coming up in January. And I said, okay, is it in person or is it virtual? She said, it's virtual 100%. I said, okay, we're not going to go to it, because I knew the platform that they were using, and that platform did not generate a great ROI. And, now I look at, okay, what are some other ones that are in that field that we can go to? So there's just a lot of research I feel that you have to do, and not just say, hey, this sounds good, I'm going to do this. Like going to where your booth is going to be, what your booth looks like, who you send to your booth, what kind of games you have, what kind of giveaways you have, what kind of, the swag that you're giving out. There's so much to it that goes into just saying, I'm going to a trade show.
Yeah, exactly. And as my favorite saying about trade shows, chocolate on the table does not equal a trade show strategy.
Right. And we went in 2019, I went to the Big Sherm event, and this is when we were just, we had the idea, we were building this up, where we weren't really live yet, but it was coming out there. And I went out there just to see what was there. And I got a table. I spent a ton of money on there. Return on investment wasn't really there. But I got to see what other people were doing, and now you have to try, right? What works for you? Who's at the table? Where do you sit? And I used to teach my people at the job fairs when I was doing the in-person job fair, I did my events a little bit different, where I was in the evening time, so that the companies could talk to the candidates first and say, here's who we are, here's what we do, here's what we're looking for to make it efficient. But I always spoke with all of the companies first. And I told them what to do with the job fair. And I would have some companies like, why are you saying this? And I'm like, listen, you need to know how to work a job fair. You don't sit behind your booth. You stand in front of your booth. You don't sit down. I'm like, I don't even like chairs at that. I go, and it's not just about, hey, I'm here to give you a free pen. It's right, interacting with them, showing them a demo of the platform, showing them what you do. Just because like you have a cool booth at a job fair doesn't mean you have the best jobs that are out there. So and I would always talk to people, and that's how I tell my, who's ever going to my trade shows. I'm like, you don't stand behind a booth. I'm like, I don't even want a table there. I'm like, I'll have a cocktail table and you'll have your TVs on the stands so that people can see, right? People are visual people.
Yeah, that's awesome. So how can people reach you, Steve?
Our website is premiervirtual.com. And they can go onto our website and they can see what we do, how we do it. We got a couple books there that they can download for free on there as well. So they can help them with the recruiting. And they can set up a strategy session with one of my team members just to see what they're doing and how virtual can help. And they can also get a demo of our platform there, because a lot of people don't understand what virtual is, right? Because right now it's like, a year ago it was like, oh my gosh, this is the cool thing to do. Now it's a necessity. You have to add a virtual component to the trade shows, to the resource events, to really anything that you're doing out there, because you can reach a wider audience.
Thank you so much for being a guest, Steve.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.